morning. I am Ryan McGough, the bodybuilding businessman and entrepreneur, and I'm here on Becoming episode 3. If you're watching the video, if you're listening, I just made it 3 with my hands. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. We got a whopping, and I'm so grateful for it, and thank you all for your participation. We got 10 views, so we hit double digits, and I really am grateful. I appreciate everybody coming through and listening in. I hope you got something that is of value. That's truly the only goal. I love doing this type of stuff. It really is something that I look forward to and lean into and appreciate and am grateful for. And my only hope is that you truly become the person that you want to be in life. And I hope I can help you get there because I have done some changing over these years, and I'm teaching you everything that I've learned. So episode 3. So episode 1 and 2, we talked about really why anybody can change and can become the person that they want to. And so the first 2 were kind of prerequisites to the show, to everything that we're doing. So if you didn't listen in, go back and listen into the first 2 episodes, because it will dive into the truth about some of these things that we believe about ourselves that we're not capable of doing or changing or becoming the people that we want to. So I would listen into those. If you got some value, please like, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Spotify or any of the podcasting formats, please share and like, of course, and help me get out there and touch and reach more people, because growth is always the fundamental principle behind a lot of this stuff, is continuing to grow and move on. So recapping a little bit, okay? We talked about pasts. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all, right? Some have a past, some don't. Some people were something far worse than they are. They changed to get to something better. That's my story. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where we come from. It doesn't matter where we are. Now, there is some places that are obviously easier to do other things. Opportunity does and is more available in certain places, but that does not mean that anybody can't overcome some of the things that they need to overcome to get to where they want to be. So 1, where we come from, what our experience level is in anything, it does not matter, right? 2, opportunity, right? We just kind of dove into that. Everyone has the opportunity to become who they are. Everyone has the opportunity to become who they want to be from who they are. And if this was not the case, there would be certain countries, places that literally are all rich and literally are all poor. And if you ended up getting born into one, right, that's it. You're done. There's no choice. There's no reason to strive. There's no reason. And we all know that's not true at all, right? In any neighborhood on the same block, I invest in real estate, right? In any neighborhood in the same block, there's a house that needs a renovation, there's an abandoned house, and there is a beautiful house, right? So like in every neighborhood and every block and every street and every city and every country and every anything, right, there are opportunity and there are things that need work and need love. There are rich, there are poor, there are wealthy, and there are not wealthy, right? So it tells us that basically there are more favorable places for certain things, but also it does not matter. Anybody in any place can become who they want to become. So your past doesn't matter, our past don't matter, and where we are doesn't matter at all either. It is just there are more favorable things, right, for certain jobs and types. If you're a salmon fisherman, right, or that's your job is to make a fishery of trout or salmon or something like that, it's probably not going to work out in Florida per se, but you might need to get to the place that does make sense for you to do that type of industry. Now, we do know that there have been certain societies that have been better than others historically. And there is some things that we should learn and take what they have accomplished and how they've been able to do that, right? Babylon is one of those countries, is one of those places. So I've read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, and it's kind of like a fairy tale type of thing, or a little story, if you will. But it is very interesting what it talks about and what it goes into. So we probably should take and learn from societies historically that were more wealthy for the masses, right? Because usually there's the scale of have and have nots, right? But in places like Babylon, where more people were historically wealthy, right? There's something to be told about how they were able to do that and what they were able to do. Now, the book that I read, and is a great book, The Richest Man in Babylon, talks about the principles behind money, right? That there is a process to gaining money, to gaining wealth, right? So if that is your story, that you want to become wealthy, established, an investor, right? Then there's certain processes that will help get you there. Now, one thing that they did mention in that book is they would have masterminds where people of all different wealth would come together every night and talk about wealth and the principles behind money. And the people that had money, right, and had wealth would tell the people that didn't the story of how they got there. And so it would keep this focus on wealth and on money. So much can be said about that. Now, past don't matter, right? Opportunity is not limited to a certain group of people. It's limited to anybody who chooses to do things in a certain way, have a certain mindset, and then be around people who are doing the same things too. So much can be said about those societies that have historically done better and been more wealthy than others. So there is a lot to learn there. So any prerequisite that I think any of us have to why we can't become the best version of ourselves, or why we can't become that dream that we have in our minds, or we can't become the person that we want to become, or that we dream about becoming, whether it's wealthy, whether it's physically fit, whether it's a better father, better mother, better parent, whether it's any of the things that we choose to want. For me, it's a lot about being the best parent, showing up and living a lifestyle that allows me to spend time at home, to be there for my family, to be there for my kids. Now, I did grind and sacrifice for years before this point, but all of that is starting to pay off to the point where I am starting to manifest the life that I wanted and that I choose to have. So that is essentially what this podcast is about, right? That anybody, anywhere, in any place can become the person that they want to become, should they follow a simple process and a simple path. And one thing I do want to remind you is that anyone can learn anything. Everything is learnable. Every skill is trainable. So if we don't believe that at this moment in time, we don't believe that, then we probably need to go back to step one, which is believing that opportunity is everywhere. Anybody can choose to become who they want to become, whether or not there are more obstacles than others. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there is the potential for anybody to choose who they want to become. And everything is attainable, and every skill is trainable. So remember that. That's the goal and the idea. And there is a process for everything. Everything has a process. There's a process to wealth, gaining wealth. There's a process to building a business, right? Starting with a problem, achieving and overcoming that problem, right? Writing a solid business model. So everything has a process. Everything is learnable, and everything is teachable and learnable. So those are the fundamental things behind what we're looking to achieve and what we're looking to do. Opportunity is not limited to a certain class, a certain group, and where any of us have come from before this point right now does not matter, because we can change, train, and learn any new skill that anybody before us has ever learned before. So those are the things that I want to dive into over the course of, every month when we put out a podcast and put out something. And we're going to interview people that have done things and achieved things to see how they did it. We're going to talk about books, readings, people that have accomplished certain things and how they were able to do that. And very much most of it is going to be about mindset, about change, about believing, and then about just harnessing the correct skill set and process to change and become that version that we're looking to become. And so a lot of it all takes first a inventory of ourselves, or admitting, hey, okay, you know what? I can get there. It doesn't matter where I am, where I've come from, right? I believe that everything is trainable. So those first few things, I believe that it doesn't matter where I come from or what's going on with me at this point, what I've done up until now, I can learn and figure out how to get to where I want to get to. Okay. Now there is a process for everything, and everything is trainable. Okay. So now what is the first thing that I need to do to get to where I want to get to? So one is admitting that I'm not there, that I have some work to do, because only when I admit that I'm not where I want to be, that tells me that I need to be in a state of learning. I need to learn, right? Okay, great. I'm not there. I have some work to do. Because if I believed I was there, or I believed that I never could get there, I'm not going to do anything. I'm shut off to any learning, any advice, any suggestion, right? And that, I'll be honest, that's one thing that is really tough about this younger generation that I'm in. And I know, because I hire a lot of young people. I cannot tell you how many chances I've given on a younger person who's, got some energy, good energy about things. Hey, I want to learn how to flip houses and do this. Okay, great. Here, the first step I learned how to flip houses was like taking this hammer and getting in there and learning how to do it. Like just being on site, right? On the job, on the task of, okay, what is plumbing? What is electrical? Because at the end of the day, like, to walk into a house and say, this house needs plumbing, electrical, foundation work, and all of that costs X. Now we have to be at the price of Y, right? Because X of what the renovation plus our margin, right, has to equal what the after repair value is, right, less our renovation and our margin. So I have to know what those numbers are to know if it's a good purchase, if it's not a good purchase, what I'm actually looking for in the property. And so my advice and suggestion is, okay, take a little time. We'll get you on a trajectory that goes upward, right? But take a little time to like learn the construction, to walk a few sites of ours, like get in with the guys, and they get paid really well, to do that, to sometimes even given a foreman position, right, where they're actually managing. And what happens is, a lot of times, is they have this belief of themselves, who they are, what they're capable of. They realize, okay, some things that I don't know, and I need to learn those to get to the point where you're giving me control of your sites and your construction, and we're running numbers on high level properties, and that's a very important task and a very big thing. I'm not there, I'm not skilled enough. And that when then suggested to learn these things from the ground level, right, it's like immediately all is lost, and it's suddenly, oh, I don't deserve or have to do this hammering and this thing. And I say hammer because I think we all have this idea of swinging the hammer, on site. But what I'm really talking about is putting fixtures in the bathroom and doing tile, and what does it look like under the floor when you pull the carpet out, and looking at some foundation stuff if there's little fixes on the side. So none of it really is that part of work, but it's more just the experience of knowing when you take it up, what are you looking at underneath? When you pull drywall off, what are you looking at from the electrical to know we need to do something and fix it, or we just put it back on, because we can't just go covering things up, right? And now it's not a safe house. But so I found a lot is the younger generation that we try to hire and give good jobs to and pay well to, pay management level, and give a trajectory because they have that passion, right? I see that passion. It's like they want to do these things, but they just don't know how to do it. Like a kid that, hits the wrong notes in the piano. Like, they and like God has instilled in them this skill set and this thing that they want to do, and they see this house and they want to make it beautiful, and like they want to learn how. And I'm like, great, it takes hard work, and learning the skills. Come on, I'll show you. And they're like immediately shut off from any kind of learning. No, I'm not going to do that. That's beneath me. I don't deserve this. Or I'm going to take the company car and drive states away and miss work the next day. It's like, guys, you gotta like actually like show up, do what you're supposed to do the right thing, like appreciate the opportunity. That's where like all of the success lies. Like it isn't in I flip a house because I get the house for a great deal, and then I have the construction crew and I put it all together, and all of a sudden my first one is this a huge success and I'm a millionaire. So it's just something that I'm seeing that, the older generations, people will come in, they know that there's a process for how to flip a house and whatever. Like we give jobs to older construction managers and that kind of thing that have been in the industry for a long time. Of course, every group has its pluses and minuses, right? But, they tend to just come in, know the process of flipping a house, see what it takes, get it in, get it done, and get on into the next one, right? So it's a lot that I'm seeing with this younger generation that's finding it very hard to like humble themselves into learning the process. And a lot of times we want to just pretend, right? Say the right things and kind of look this part and this image of this person that is already flipping houses and tell, right? Because of all this information that we have, and learn it just enough, just a little bit to be able to talk about it. But then when, the foundation, right? When we talk about working out and bodybuilding, the foundation is the legs, right? We start with the legs. When we get into any pose, we set up the legs first, right? If your legs are so weak and too weak and you put all this mass on top, your legs are just going to topple over. And the foundation is the same. You have to have this full understanding of all the different parts, how they work, and that takes time, work, education. And when you're ready to do those, right, to learn, when you know all of those things, what's the proper wear and tear of surrounding pieces within it, right? Okay, electrical is this, it's a panel and wires, but what does it look like when something's not right? What does it plumbing look like when there's a problem? What is a acceptable type of pipe that maybe we should say, oh, I see this pipe in the bathroom and it's going down and it looks like it's really corroded and rusted, right? So like there's a lot of different interfacing pieces and parts that take a lot of knowledge on to walk into a house and say, this needs to be fixed, this is good, this needs to be fixed. So knowing all of those things make us, better at what we do. And if I'm going to leave it to someone, I need to know that they're going to do the as good of a job that I do on it, right? Because I don't want to leave something to somebody and have them represent my company, and now it's not done at the standard that I choose and want to do everything myself to. So it's always a tough cycle of training people and giving people chances, but also still wanting them to and pushing them to be the best versions of themselves and work on themselves and take suggestion, and instead of taking it personally, take it and learn from it, right? And then learn that that weakness in ourselves is something that we've been shown, right? So instead of being upset about it, now learn it, process it, okay? Now walk out, go and learn some things that are going to then make that part better in myself, and then come back to the table and work through all of those challenges and issues and all that, because that first step is admitting and acknowledging that there's something that I need to work on, that I'm not there yet. And I think everybody has that. Everybody has to say that about themselves at some point. Like, nobody that I know is where they need to be, that they just need to stop growing and stop learning, right? So the first step in becoming is admitting honestly to myself, I still have work to do in different categories of my life. So I'm open to suggestion. I'm going to look for the knowledge, and then I'm actually going to accept that knowledge as truth and start working on that knowledge and working on that part of myself that isn't as, as good as where it needs to be, right? And so for me right now, I think the work is going well. The telecom side of things, we're putting bids out. We're changing from kind of just subcontracting work to being the prime on some things. So it's a slower process forward. We're not doing as much work as we were because we were taking a lot of small jobs. So we're going into that big bid, and we're dealing with material distributors, and and we're looking at big projects as a whole. So we're just diving in and putting $100,000 bids together and following up and seeing how we did on those, and that whole process there. So that's in a good place. It just kind of needs my support to just go over some really high level numbers, and did we put in this and did we put that, and how does that look? So that's kind of what my part looks there, which is just high level overseeing on the bidding process and the material distribution process and building those relationships, but everything else works on itself. The real estate side, we have construction managers and boots on the ground for every project, and we now have more than one project going on at a time. So we're hiring contractors for other projects, and so they just kind of update our manager, and then they update the system. So that's kind of, at the same token, just needs me to just jump in and kind of fix and solve any high level bottlenecks within those processes. So that's good. Our marketing for our projects that are going on for capital raising is going really well. I'm posting 3 to 4 times a day, so that's going well. Probably the biggest thing that I want to work on and be better is family life, right? Is putting it all away, separating from the stresses of work. And I think I'm doing a better job. But the girls now are 2 and 3. My girls are. So they're in this phase where they want to argue and no, not this. And they're building their identities, which is beautiful. It's amazing, right? And at the same time, I don't want to destroy their ideas of learning things by being that parent that is just like, no, you do this because it's my way, right? Don't jump off that because it'll hurt, if it's only like 2 feet. So it's a lot, to say like I have to discipline, and I want to because I know that some things are not safe. But at the same time, I don't want to always be this person who's saying no and stopping them from doing the things that they're learning and wanting to do, right? Just because of the control side of things, right? But I don't want to be too much saying no, and I don't want to not say no at all, and then the kids just run around and are crazy and do whatever they want, and there's no level of discipline. So in trying to find that balance, right, I think the learning aspect of things there is what is what is the balance, what is the level of changing and stopping them from doing certain things, and overbearing as to always say no and killing this drive of learning that they have. So So there's always something I'm trying to become. There's always something I'm trying to change and work on in myself, right? And the first very fundamental step is just acknowledging that I'm not there yet, acknowledging that there's other people out there that have more information than me, and just remembering that it is a process. There is a process of parenting, one that is successful, that's worked, right? Learning what that process is from the ones who have done it, and then putting in the work, right? Putting in the work day in and day out. This situation is this. How do I respond? This situation is that. Should I respond differently then? And then just reading the results, reading the feedback, right? So I think it's similar in everything that we do. But the first fundamental step is admitting, and then believing and putting together a process that will work, right? But it starts with acknowledging I'm not there and then thinking about it, right? We can't ever put together anything without thought, right? So the first, admitting I'm not there, I have work to do, and next week's or next month's episode and episode 2 is definitely going to be about thought, right? Visualize it. Nothing happens first without a thought. And the more I can stay in that world of thought, stay in that world of creating in my mind, right? Those things that I want to paint onto the world, onto the universe, right? I first have to start by the thought of those things and then impress them onto the world. So the more I can hold them in my thoughts, the stronger that transmission, that force is, right, is going to be. And the bigger the things are, the more energy they're going to take to create them in here, to create them out there. And the slower they're going to move because of how large they are. So it's very similar to physics and math, how that works. But episode 3, we talked about the past and what is blocking us from getting there. We talked about opportunities. They're anywhere and everywhere. We just have to learn how to see them. And then today is realizing that I have work to do. I have to put the work in. There's no way to get from where I am to where I want to go without changing some aspects and attributes of myself. And if that was not true, then I think we could all say, okay, whether I'm great or whether I'm not, right? Whatever I'm living today, right now, by doing the things that I'm doing, if I do not change anything, they are going to be exactly the same way, right? So is that good or is that bad? I think I can probably say I still have a lot to accomplish and a lot to do. So even though I'm gaining more momentum and becoming more successful every day, I think I still have a lot that I want to do. So I know I need to change a lot and add some new things to my variety and vocabulary. And I think every year, if you were to look at me and talk to me every year, if I'm not growing and expanding in the things that I say, do, talk about, my attitude, my actual physical and mental, both the house that I live in, everything. I think everything should be growing and moving forward into a better situation and position every year, right? So if I'm the same this year as I was last year, as I was the year before, or worse, then I really need to do some things differently to not do that, because I need to show up for society, for the economy, for my country, for my family. I need to show up better every year, every 5 years, every 10 years, better, with more contributions, with more wealth, with more ideas, with all of that, to move the world and the people in it to a better place. So that is why we need to become who we are, who we need to be. We need to become who we should be, and why we need to focus on the future, tomorrow. We need to focus on growing things, those ideas that we're blessed with and given in our imaginations. We need to do all of that. And so it's not only a thing that we could do, but it's a thing that we need to do, right?